I was reluctant to talk about this for a long time. I kept it a secret for a long time. It was at the 2008 Republican convention in Minneapolis when I was sort of numb from essentially the chest down. And I could move my arms, but I couldn't feel my hands or my legs. That's when I went to a paramedic at the convention center, the Target Center, I think it's called, the arena where in Minnesota. And this paramedic whispered in my ear, he said, "I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I think you have MS." My mom had symptoms like that. And I remember looking at
Is this like between live shots or something?
Yeah,
I mean, what a place.
Exactly. It was Laura Bernardini, who you might remember, was
Yes, I know Laura.
Fantastic producer who worked with me, who mostly let me be me, which is a pain in the you-know-what. And she just looked at me.
Which makes her an angel.
Yeah, she just looked at me and she grabbed me and she said, "We are going to get you help."
Hi, friend. Welcome to Call Me Friend, powered by Miss Lou's Cabin, an Airbnb property on a remote section of the Georgia coast. This is the podcast where I call one of my friends and you get one heck of an incredible story. Today, I am calling a friend from my old CNN days, John King. You might know him from election night when he is the master in front of the magic wall and he manipulates the maps and the data, and he can read what's going on election night. And even before that, kind of like reading tea leaves. He is a true political scientist and an old time kind of reporter who really lets the facts lead. And you could almost call what he does in front of the magic wall the ultimate party trick, except for one thing. Politics is very serious in these very serious times, and there's nothing party or tricky about it. He is all about the facts and he reports what he sees. And if you don't like what he sees, well, then that's on you. But he's not going to try to persuade you or any viewer for one political point of view. And isn't that refreshing and different in these days and times when it seems like no matter where you get your news from, it has some kind of political bent. No, John is all about the facts. Others have tried to emulate him. There are others on other networks that have similar tools of the magic wall. But really, in my opinion, there is only one John King, and he is the best, and he is the master, and he has a brilliant mind. And as is the case with a lot of friends I call on this podcast, his biggest story right now is actually his own, one he has not talked about a lot publicly. John is living with multiple sclerosis, which leads to the question that any friend would want to know: how the heck are you doing? That's what I want to know about John. And I'm thinking maybe you want to know how John is doing as well. There's one way to find out. Let's call John. This episode is powered by Miss Lou's Cabin, an Airbnb property on a remote section of the Georgia coast. Do you ever go to a beautiful resort and you long to know what this place looked like before they paved paradise and put up all those parking lots? Well, here's your chance. Miss Lou's Cabin sits on 7 private acres on a tidal saltwater marsh about 15 minutes south of Savannah, Georgia. It is a place so quiet that you don't even hear road noise. Instead, you're going to hear pink spoonbills, wild dolphins feeding off your private dock. I just saw some this morning. The breeze whistling through the Spanish moss that hangs from countless oak trees all around the property. And then there's this porch overlooking the marsh that is absolutely a perfect place to hang with your family and friends, read a zillion books, catch the sunrise, drink a great cup of coffee, all while you stay in a restored log cabin that has all the comforts and amenities of a beautiful home. Miss Lou's Cabin, check it out in the link below in our show notes, or simply Google Miss Lou's Cabin and you'll find this piece of paradise. Well, hi there, friend.
Well, hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's been a minute.
What are the trees? Is this home behind you?
This is home.
There we go.
Okay, we'll start with a little geographic pop quiz for you and see what you can come up with. Okay.
All right.
This is McIntosh County, Georgia.
Wow. Okay.
What you got?
You're out in the country.
We are. We're on the coast, about 30 miles south of Savannah.
Right. And so that's where it starts to get red again.
Yeah, it's red.
Yeah. If you go right up to Savannah, you still get some blue, although even less, it's getting less blue.
So I'll give you a little tidbits from McIntosh County for your next election night.
Right.
Okay. Not a single stoplight in the entire county.
Oh, I like it already.
Yeah. Only one 4-way intersection, and there's about 12,000 people that live in the entire county. And a lot of good folks. A lot of good folks live down here.
Most of them are. That's the big mistake that people in my
Yes.
town make. That they're all, what's wrong with those crazy people? No, they're actually really hardworking, good people. They're just very disaffected, so they'll try anything.
It's very interesting to live between two worlds, right? Coming from California, and where so many of my friends who I grew up with, like, how could you, and how could you live here, and how could you live among those people? And I think we need to know each other.
Yeah. This is you're hitting on the greatest problem with our country right now, is that we've decided it's okay to self-segregate, and we've decided it's okay to think we're smarter than anybody else. And that you're actually wasting your time just to talk to those people. It's like, no, actually, no, yep, that's the problem.
There, okay, now that we've solved the world's problems, we can just wrap up and say thank you. Thanks for joining us.
It's been awesome. Great to see you.
It's been great. It's been good to see you. I'm just so thrilled that you even had time to do this. It's not like you don't have anything going on your political beat.
I have a little more flexibility in my schedule now in my new role, which is good. And the company is going through yet another transformation, revolution, evolution, call it what you will. Pick us all up by the ankles and shake us till all the money comes out. I don't know what to call it. But I'm trying in my middle age to remain an optimist. Johnny Jihad has passed on, and Johnny Zen is trying to remain an optimist. But so I have a little bit more, as we sort through some things, I have more time than usual, which it's all great, because I have my two older kids are professionals now, but I have a 14-year-old freshman in high school. So I'm a shuttle driver. That's what I am. I'm a shuttle driver, and I do the cable news, digital news thing on the side a little bit. Well,
you found your purpose in life, and that is to drive.
I actually have found my purpose in life. Yes. And I'm more than happy with it. Oh.
Absolutely. I came across a picture the other day. We were at a Braves game with the two older kids. I don't know that they were even 10 years old.
Huh?
I mean, they were little. It was right before I left CNN. CNN had let me know I was going to go. Phil Kent was in front of us, and we were watching the game. And so Phil Kent, for anybody who doesn't know, was running Turner Broadcasting, who was running CNN. So he was the big grand poobah of everybody. And I thought, oh, well, maybe he doesn't know they've let me know they're not going to renew my contract. So I said, he's like, hey, how are you? I go, well, they're not going to renew my contract. He's like, yeah, I heard. I'm like, all right then. Okay.
For me, that's my ID. When I pull into the garage every day, I just swipe it, and then I wait 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, not today. In I go.
And there, exactly. So I had gotten the warning that ID would not be working anymore, and that's okay. It set me off on a different journey, and it's all good, and leads us to where we are here today. But those little kids are now big functioning people in the world.
It's amazing, actually. Noah, my oldest, got married last year, and he's completely different from his sister. He's 31. She is 28, about to turn 28. And he's a scientist, and he does biotech and pharmaceutical companies, which is like the Wild West. He's lost his job like 3 times. And I get all, oh my God. And he's just like, Dad, this is the way it is. It's good. It's fine. And he gets through it. And he's had another great company now, and knock on wood. This one actually stays in business. But you know how that works? They think they have a promising drug. They invest a whole lot of money. They get this hedge fund money or whatever, investment money. And then if the second or the third round of the testing goes bad, the company has to downsize, or sometimes they go away.
Yep.
So for him, that's like, that's what I do. That's the Wild West. And my daughter's in finance, and she is amazing. And she's been recruited a couple of times. She started at JP Morgan, got recruited by another company, and she's doing great. And she's lived in New York City, and it's like amazing. They come out of the tunnel as fully functioning, like remarkable people. And successful adults. And so I'm blessed in that regard. I didn't have all that much to do with it. But they're amazing people. And now I got the little one, freshman in high school, and here we go. It's a great adventure.
Here we go. Well, I picked up a couple kids since I worked at CNN, and they're grown too. And our oldest is in biotech as well. She is working for a company started by some neurologists that came up with a skin test that can detect Parkinson's disease. Yeah. So she's out in Arizona and the other one is up near Raleigh, North Carolina.
But see, that's the reason to be an optimist in these times where everybody's anxious and what. I really think that their generation is going to fix all of our mistakes, or at least most of them.
That is the ultimate optimistic standpoint. On the other side of optimism is the whole political thing. How many times have you already in recent years said, okay, this is as crazy as it can get, only for it to get crazier?
It keeps getting more interesting. I don't know if I'd use the word. I think I probably would have used the word crazy before. And I've actually tried to change my vocabulary because crazy suggests that it's like, you can't understand it or something. And I've been lucky in the last few years, of my many iterations. I've been at CNN for almost 30 years now, which is crazy, 29 years. But I've had many different jobs and roles in that time. This latest one to me is the most enlightening because I'm learning every day. And I always say the blessing of what we do, the gift of what we do is we get paid to learn. I had to borrow I had to borrow every dime to get through college. Now they pay me to travel the country and sometimes travel the world and learn. And it's a gift. If you think back, 1992 was my, second presidential campaign. That was Ross Perot. He got 19 million votes. And you thought, wow, this is a third party. Wow, this is crazy. And then 2000, Bush v. Gore, and 500 votes in Florida, and hanging chads, and all the way to the Supreme Court. And you think, oh, we're never going to go through this again. And then the 2016 Trump, and then then Trump loses to Biden. He lost to Biden. He still keeps saying he didn't, but he lost to Biden. And then he comes back after January 6th. So it's a fascinating time. And one of the things I think that a lot of people in Washington and New York don't get it at all. But if you travel the country, it's actually not that hard to get. It is, Trump, whether you like him or don't like him, is the result of 25 or 30 years of failure by the established political parties to deal with big issues like globalization, like where are the jobs in globalization? What about all these technological changes? Yes, we should have a secure border and we should have a process for people to come into the country and get jobs. And all those issues and more have been punted down the road for 25 years. And so it should not surprise us that the same electorate that went way outside the box in 2008 and said, we're going to elect a black guy, has gone way outside the box again and say, we're going to elect this guy who they still don't consider, many of them still don't think of him as a politician. But that's a little crazy because he's run for office 3 times now, president 3 times now. But he has been able to brand himself as different and not one of them. And he's benefited from that because the American people, actually across the political spectrum, are pretty frustrated with what they got, and they're looking for something different.
They are. Why have you do you find the word crazy to say it's crazy? Is that like derogatory and disrespectful, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning?
Yeah, I do. I try to think, again, because of the conversations I end up having too often in Washington and New York about, like, how is this happening? And so I in my All Over the Map project, I have a couple of dozen, Trump voters. None of them are crazy, right? They're really interesting people. They're hardworking people. They're patriotic people. Some of them believe things that I do not believe to be true. Some of them have views about things that I think are not fact-based or science-based. But my job is to figure out how they got there, or why they got there, or where they got that information, and why they believe it. But they're doctors and lawyers and small business people, and architects and fishermen, and they are, look around. I mean, they are your friends and your neighbors and your doctors. And now you probably know a lot more Trump voters than you did a few years ago, because now that he won again, and he actually won the popular vote, he didn't get a majority, but he came close. A lot of people who weren't going to tell you they voted for Trump, now are willing to say, yeah, I voted for Trump. Is there a slice of the Trump electorate that, that stormed the Capitol back on January 6th and that feel that militant about certain things? Yes, there is. There is. And we need to, study those people too. But the broad swath of the Trump coalition, whether they're, Trump can do no wrong to, I don't like a lot of the things he does. I don't like the way he treats people. I don't like his tone, but he's going to close the border and cut my taxes. And I don't trust the other politicians to do anything. It's a much more complicated pie, coalition, mix of people, casserole, pick your terms, than a lot of people in New York and Washington and Los Angeles think. And so it has been the gift of my life the last couple of years to travel the country, to towns big and small, to find them and to meet them. And so, do we live in like crazy times? I guess you could use that word. But if people then take that to mean that there are crazy people out there, I would not. To call anybody that is pejorative, and I wouldn't do that because 99.9% of the people I meet are wonderful, hardworking Americans who, for whatever reason and wherever they are on the spectrum, are mad with the establishment, sometimes including our business, the media business. And they're looking to kick the can. They are looking to kick the can, Daryn, and they're good at it.
So sometimes when you show up, you have some work to do to even get in and have people trust in talking to you.
Yeah, and that can be frustrating. I went to a diner in Pennsylvania where we had a beautiful breakfast. We had finished the shoot and then just started shooting the breeze with the waitress. And then she told the owner we were from CNN, and she told us to get the hell out of there.
Wait, did she make you pay the bill first?
I had paid the bill, and I had paid the bill, and I actually left a pretty healthy tip. And so I told the crew to go outside, and I tried to stay inside. I said, "Can we just have a cup of coffee? I just want to know why you feel that way about CNN. You don't know me. You don't know me at all." And she wouldn't. And I told her I'd be back, and I will go back. We've been through this for 25, maybe 30 years now of the Fox News public relations machine. And in my view, CNN kept thinking, "Oh, that doesn't matter. Oh, that's not going to work."
No, I mean, that's what. Yeah. We were at CNN when Fox was coming up, and it was like, "Oh, that's just another one of those networks that are just trying to come up. Like, don't even worry about them."
Yeah, but the way they branded us, I mean, they were, we viewed them, I guess, as a competitor, for viewers, but we didn't. I don't think we took seriously enough what they were saying about us. We thought people aren't going to believe
Fair
that.
Enough.
And if you repeat something over and over and over again, guess what? Enough people will believe it. And then, we're not perfect either. You make a few mistakes, it feeds into it, and off we go. But now Trump does it. And I tell this to every Trump voter I meet. Trump watches more CNN than I do, and I watch a lot of CNN. And we know this from our reporting, and we know this from our conversations with him and his people, when he's very specific, when he says things about CNN that he either likes or severely dislikes. So how does he know all that? But it's part of his political argument. It's part of his branding. It's part of his, they're all out to get me. And so you have to have a thick skin. You know this. You anchored live television for a long time. You have to have really thick skin to do that in a chaotic situation. And so I just try to listen. And, my mother told me a long time ago, you don't learn when you're talking, you learn when you're listening. And so if people are reluctant to talk to me, I just say, well, can you at least tell me why? And then try to start the conversation with them. And 8 times out of 10, if not 9 times out of 10, by the end of it, they're willing to have the conversation. Because once you convince them, I really respect where you're coming from. I am here to learn where you're coming from. You are helping me by talking to me, and I will treat you fairly. What I always ask them is, give me one chance. You'll see the piece I do. I will send it to you. If it's not fair, you'll never return my call or my text, and I won't be back. If it is, I'll be back. And the thing I love about my current project is I go back. So we started this at in late 2023, summer of 2023. And there are voters, whether they're Trump voters or Biden voters or Harris voters or independents who don't know what to do. We've been back to 5, 6, 7 times, and we keep in touch with them constantly. And for me, it's great. It's like I have reporters spread all across the country. I have eyes and ears on the ground who are telling me what they're seeing at work, what they're seeing in their community, what their friends and neighbors are saying. And a lot of them are people who initially said, why would I talk to CNN?
And you got through. And do you ultimately think that conversation is the one thing that might save us as a country, as a people, as neighbors, as communities? Do we just need to talk to each other?
I think the success of what you're doing, the podcast world, the longer conversations, whether they're about something in particular, which a lot of them are, or whether they're just sort of generally, let's bring friends together, let's air things out, is proof that yes. And the fact that people are going there and moving away from the polarized debates where you put, a D and an R at a table and you throw a stake in the middle and it's just gladiator, right? You fight it out, do your talking points. Yes, and I'm an optimist. Look, because of technology, because of polarization, because of a lot of cost pressures, the media business, entire media business, even organizations that John King, former AP Wire guy, traditionally trained journalists would not consider to be media, they have the same right to the First Amendment I do. So I may not like it, but that's the way it is. We're going through this cycle, but the thirst for information is greater than ever. I know that from my older kids. We go on a vacation, they're not watching television. They might.
Well, I was going to say
they
thirst
might,
for information, but not from the same places that we would get it from.
right. So we need to go where they are. We got to go. We have to find our consumers. Just like anybody selling a product now has to sell it online, not in the newspaper. We have to find them. But people want these conversations. I'm convinced if I took all of my voters, we're up to close to 150 voters now, and they're all across the spectrum. And I'm convinced if we put them in a room, like kicked Congress out and gave them the Capitol for a week, they would pass an immigration bill. It wouldn't solve everything, but they'd figure out 60% of it we can agree on. We'd have a guest worker program. We'd have more border security. We'd have some sort of a system for letting people in. You'd work with the business community about what do you need? What do you need, farmers? What do you need, high-tech companies?
Yeah.
What do you need, hotel industry? Yes, there would be some things they can't figure out, but they would set them aside and deal with the stuff they can agree on, unlike Washington, which just says, oh, we can't agree on something, so let's just fight like cats and dogs and raise a lot of money. Yes, conversation. The cancer in our country right now is that polarization has people off in their corners like a boxing match. It's cynical, but the smart politicians keep ringing the bell, right? That you're in the fight. So if you're in the fight, you stay in your corner and you stay on your team. When you can actually have a cup of coffee or a beer and have a conversation and say, oh, I like your neighborhood. Oh, I like your car. Oh, I like your dog. Oh, where'd you get that sweater? All of a sudden you start having a conversation with people and you realize we have so much more in common. And we can learn from each other too. The things you're telling me about where you live. Oh, great. Tell me about that. I've never been there. I've been close by, and yet you're in a place that's very different from 20 or 30 miles up the road. I want to know that. I want to know that, because that's what John King does for a living. But I also want to know it because I'm curious. And people are curious, and most people are respectful. And most people, whether it's their parents or their faith or their teachers, have been told to listen and respect other people. It's our politics that are pitting them against each other and pushing their buttons. If we just let people have conversations, we would be a hell of a lot better off pretty quickly, actually, I think.
Well, two things on that. One, I'm inviting you to come down to McIntosh County. To be more specific, Shellman Bluff. You can look that one up on a map.
You'll regret it, but here I come.
I won't. I know what I'm doing. I know who's here. I know. We have our house and we have an Airbnb at a restored log cabin right next door on 10 acres. So come, you can bring the crew. We got room for everybody.
It'll make a great receipt for the CNN. You know how we file our expenses at CNN. So Daryn Kagan's Airbnb, it's just a ding, 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 ding.
What's not matching up about this, but we'll do it. We'll figure it out. No, come down and I'll introduce you around. There's some good folks. And this is the life I'm living and would love to share it. So that. And second, you need to get that thing happening where you get your 150 voters in a room, really make it, do it as a special project. Why not?
No, we're trying, that I say it sarcastically sometimes or cynically sometimes. There's a whole lot of great people where I work, and we are going through this transformation from a linear television cable network to meeting people where they are, which is on their phone or on their tablet or on their laptop in different ways. And there are a whole lot of great people working on it. As you know me very well from when we work together, I'm not the most patient person in the world. I'm more patient now than I was back then. Trust me.
Good to know.
But I'm not the most patient person in the world, so I'm just can we have this transformation now, please? And it doesn't work that way. We have a whole lot of technical infrastructure they have to build and a whole lot of other things. But we are moving toward this space where I do think, in a world where we have more video on demand and more streaming, and you get your news like you get your Netflix or your Amazon Prime, your Paramount Plus. You can do it. The whole idea of appointment. Daryn Kagan's on TV at 10 o'clock in the morning. And you have to watch Daryn Kagan. That's over. Sorry. As much as I love Daryn Kagan or any of my colleagues, that day's just over. Unless there's big breaking news, right? We need to be there. We need to have the infrastructure up live every day because sometimes there is breaking news, good, bad, and in between. But the idea that you can't tell people when to watch because technology lets them do what they want when they want, and their jobs are different than they were 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. So their own pace of life is different. But they will come for good quality information if you give it to them. We know that. We see that from searching habits. So I'm actually looking forward to it. And I think that's one of the things I do want to do is to start having, and one of the things I did for television, and I did temporary podcast last year, a little bit near the end, where we used some of our voters to then have conversations about, where were we in the country? What moment were we in the campaign? Why is this voter different from that voter, even though they live in the same place? We tested it a little bit in the campaign year, and I'm really looking forward when we get this infrastructure in place to trying some new ways to do it. And some of them will fail, which is whoop-de-doo. I mean, that's another thing we have to realize right now, that in this new world we're in, we cannot be afraid to fail. As long as it's editorially sound and we're trying to tell a good story and a valid story, we have to try different ways to do it, to try to meet people where they are. And some of them will succeed and some of them won't. I'll use your old sports days before you came into the news days.
Okay. Now we're going way back, machine.
But if it's, it's like, I always use the analogy, it's like baseball. If you hit 300, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame, or at least you're going to have a chance to be in the Hall of Fame. Well, that means you failed 7 out of 10 times. To hit 300. And we have to have that mentality in the news business now. As long as you can look yourself in the mirror and say, there's nothing that's factually correct. We tried to be creative. That one just didn't land right. Okay, try something else.
So you believe CNN's going to make it in some form or another. You hear doomsday. You believe CNN is going to make it.
It is the best global brand in the news business. It has the deepest reach and talented team in the news business. It is not perfect. It was probably slow, maybe in some ways, to start this transformation, because you know this from when you work there. When you're good at something, or you were the first at something, you think the next thing's going to be a fad, or we're going to keep doing this. Just human nature, right? We've been slow to do some things, and we've made some mistakes along the way. And you can question this leader or that leader, if you want to go back through it. Our current leadership, who knows if they succeed at this? But Mark Thompson is a global editorial adult. And the conversations involving him are the conversations that he stirs at our company, are the conversations I want to be involved in. It's why I came to CNN in the first place way back in the day. Will we get some things wrong? Of course we will. Are we a little slower to get this infrastructure in place than we would like? I think that's fair to say. But we know the thirst for information is out there. We have a damn good brand, and we need to defend it. It's around the world, and the news is around the world right now. It's used to doing things quickly and in a nimble way. And again, do I agree with everything? Of course not. But they listen to me. The doors are open. You can have a debate about these things. So yes, I do think, we should have this, whether I do it from there or we do this again in a year. I will bet you 1 year from today, people will be saying, wow, CNN has taken some very important steps into this new world and is making progress. And is doing it right. And yes, is falling down sometimes and, getting a few things wrong, but big picture wise has completely reinvented the way it delivers news to its consumers, but is still being hard news, breaking news, smart enterprise, thoughtful news. A year from today, if we have that conversation, I'm really hopeful we'll be in a good place.
Okay. It's a date. We will do it. Amen. A year from today. Hopefully I'll talk to you before then. They're very lucky to have you in their corner. It's very interesting to hear what you think about the current leadership. And the one thing I'm going to fight you on, you said that's why you came to CNN. I thought you came because you wanted to be on one of my shows that I was anchoring. I thought that was the thing that sealed the deal.
Yeah, I thought there's this sports girl trying to anchor news television. She needs help. I got to get there.
For the record, my background was news. The sports thing is a thing that I made up. That was the big leap.
Yeah. Listen, when I came, I never thought I was going to work in television. I was an old AP
No, I know that. Yeah.
I was a print guy, but CNN talked me into it. And those days, I mean, the Clinton White House, I used the word crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was crazy.
And then followed by the Bush election. I was at the White House for 10 years. This is the hair color is, you met me when I had color in my hair. I don't anymore. That's my mother's DNA. But the bags under my eyes, that's Bill Clinton.
I know our time is limited today, so I want to go ahead. I want to pivot for a second. You mentioned looking in the mirror, so I want to get a little personal. I don't know. I leave you unsupervised for like 19 years and you go out and you get multiple sclerosis. Like, what is this about? What is going on with you?
It's a great question because it is such a mystery. You even probably knew me when I was having some back issues. Occasionally I was on crutches. I remember when I was on a George W. Bush trip. He was in France and he was going up to Normandy when Ronald Reagan died. And I was having weird issues with my legs. I was on crutches that day. all day long on television when Reagan died. It was a sad day. I was in a car accident once, and I have discs at the bottom of my spine that are damaged, and they thought, you got some nerve issue going on down there. It's that, we can operate.
Bad back.
Yeah, and they thought, and it's dangerous to cut where those lower discs are. And they were like, we can go in there if you want, but until we get to a point where this is like not just occasional, then we're reluctant. Some doctors want to do it right away. They think they're God. I'll cut you. You'll be great. You'll be running in a week. Most of them were like, we're not going in there. But then over time, the symptoms changed. And it was at the 2008 Republican convention in Minneapolis when I was sort of numb from essentially the chest down. And I could move my arms, but I couldn't feel my hands or my legs. That's when I went to a paramedic at the convention center, the Target Center, I think it's called, the arena in Minnesota. And this paramedic whispered in my ear, he said, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I think you have MS. My mom had symptoms like that. And I remember looking at them.
Is this like between live shots or something? I mean, what a place.
Exactly. It was Laura Bernardini, who you might remember was
I know Laura.
Fantastic producer who worked with me, who mostly let me be me, which is a pain in the you-know-what. And then she just looked at me.
Which makes her an angel.
Yeah, she just looked at me and she grabbed me and she said, we are going to get you help. And she dragged my sorry little you-know-what down there. And they ran some tests and it was night of the convention, so I had to go back to work, and I did. But when we got a break, I got MRIs, and I don't know how familiar you are with MS, but you have lesions along your brain stem and down your spine, and some of them are flashing a little bit on the test. That means they're active. And the myelin is like the electrical coating on a wire. You think about a wire that you have electrical coating on. There's a wire inside this, and the coating protects it. Your nerves have the same thing. Your nerves run through and they have this myelin on the outside. Well, when the myelin chips away, the signal that's supposed to go from your brain to your foot to say walk doesn't get there because it comes out somewhere, because of the coating is damaged along the way. And that becomes MS. Scary at the time. To anybody listening who gets a diagnosis of anything, don't do what I know you're going to do, which is go on the internet.
You Googled.
Don't.
I know you did it. How could you not? I know you did it.
Of course I did. Yeah. And it's, look, it's, I am so lucky. I was reluctant to talk about this for a long time. I kept it a secret for a long time because I know what progressive MS does to people. And it takes people from athletes and dancers and construction workers and strong, burly and talented people. And it puts them in a wheelchair and off their feet, sometimes in months. I was diagnosed it'll be, 18 years ago. Going on 20 years, and I'm still standing. And I have really bad days, and I hide a lot of what it does to me from people. But I can function. I have had to completely change my life in how I exercise and where I am, self-awareness about what's happening in my body, and becomes kind of a magician to hide things from people sometimes, which is both good and bad. But I'm blessed. I'm blessed on the MS spectrum. But yes, it is a disease they don't know a lot about. They don't know how to cure it. I'm amazingly lucky in that, forever we want to say about our company over the years, we have generally had a very generous healthcare program and a generous prescription drug program. And I know what my MS drugs, I take 2, I know what they would cost to someone who doesn't have health insurance or who has a
What would they cost? What would that cost if you didn't have insurance?
If you took them both, you'd be talking about over $100,000 a year.
No.
Yeah, over $100,000 a year for the 2 drugs I take. And one of them is actually not an MS drug, but it fools my body. And so, normally my fatigue would kick in to the point where, after a couple hours, I can't walk much anymore, or I get really bad headaches. And one of the drugs essentially fools your brain. And so it's vital to me for my performance, right? But that would be gone, right? If you were a person with that, you wouldn't be able to take that. And the other one is a very old basic MS drug, but it's still close to $80,000 a year, or 60 something now a year over the counter. Now nobody pays over the counter. I get that. The drug companies, to their credit, offer help to people who don't have. Many of the drug companies offer help to people who don't have the resources. But just think about the stress of what I just talked about. If I were John King in the King family growing up in Dorchester, Massachusetts, and anyone in my family had to deal with this challenge, that would be bankruptcy and debilitating. Yeah. And so I'm lucky in that regard. But yeah, MS sucks. MS challenges you in different ways every day. At the same time, I've used it, I think, as a motivator. to live a healthier life, and more importantly, to be a better person. To realize that everywhere you are, I was just at the grocery store. I ran a couple errands a little while ago. There's somebody in that group of 10, 15, 20 people you can see, or even 5 people that you can see if you're in a small space. Somebody has some challenge that is invisible to you.
Everyone's got something.
Yeah.
I think everyone has something.
Yeah. So be more patient. Be more patient at the person who's walking, who's taken too much time to go through the TSA line, or seems to be dithering at the Starbucks, or seems a little confused and like, oh, I'm in a hurry. Just like, it's made me a more empathetic person. I'm still not perfect, but just to realize that I hid this from so many people for so long and no one had a clue. That how many other people are out there doing that, and every step is a struggle. And so hopefully it makes you more patient and more empathetic.
So why did you decide to come out and share that you have multiple sclerosis?
I had been.
Excuse me, that's my dog running. That's my dog barking in the background. So she's a big talker like me.
I'm gonna make you sad, but there's a dog in my neighborhood that has a challenge like a dog I met a long time ago in Atlanta. Your dog, tripod, and so I was thinking, every time I see that dog, I think about you and a visit down there a long time ago, and just because of how tough. I mean, some people might think this.
My three-legged, it was a cat. First of all, my three-legged cat is not why you decided to come out public with your multiple sclerosis.
No, it's just the idea that it's everybody, every animal, every creature has a challenge, right? And so there's a tough creature, they're just getting through what they got to get through. No, I was thinking about it anyway, because when you keep a secret, you just then constantly have to keep, you get in this tunnel, and maybe it's not lies, but it's just, you're just not being honest, right? You're hiding things from people and you're not being honest. And that gets really, that in itself becomes stressful. And one of the triggers of MS is stress. And so I was like, I need to get over this. My initial thought was, not in a bad way, but that my bosses, to protect me, would discriminate against me. If I said I wanted to go to Iraq, if I said I wanted to go out on the road, if I said I wanted to keep covering hurricanes and tornadoes, they would be, this is not safe. We can't do this to you. And, they were good people. I don't mean it to be negative, but that they would somehow try to shield me and protect me. And that's the last thing I wanted. That's why I kept it a secret at first. And I was scared. I got to be able to play with my kids. So I got to be able to keep walking. As that time passed, I started to think about, let's get over this. And then we were in the pandemic, and some people who I believe are reckless and who were trying to gin up ratings as opposed to do their jobs correctly were beating up on masks. Masks take away your freedoms. Vaccines, the government is trying to tell you what to do, and you don't know what's in that vaccine. And it came out one day after one of our medical contributors was on the program when I was still anchoring Inside Politics. And we had just been able to bring people back into the bureau and sit around the table. And I was just so grateful that everybody was back in the room, that, the doctor talked about the lunacy of something somebody had said on another cable network. And I just said, you know what? I said, I'm grateful for vaccines because I'm immunocompromised. I have MS. And I am so grateful that you all got your vaccine so that you can be back here, so that I can do my job in a better way. And you're keeping me safe. And thank you. And so I was clearly thinking about doing it. And then it blurted it out on the moment in live television. You know how dangerous live television is. And there it was. If I had a rewind button, I would maybe choose to do it a little differently. But in the end, it was time for it to come out, and it did.
It came out exactly when it was supposed to. How does it affect how you do your job?
Well, it requires me, and it requires, I'm so lucky. I talked about Laura earlier. Laura and Tasha worked with me for more than a decade. They knew when no one else knew, and they protected me. They were a few of the people I told. Now I have Ali Malloy is a producer who works most closely with me. We just hired back a guy you might know from your days at CNN, Ish Estrada, just came back in. He had left CNN for a while, worked with Anderson for a long time. And I just have to be honest with them. But mostly I have to be honest with myself. And so that means when we're on the road, I have found that if I exercise and get my body pumped up, I buy time in the day. At the end of any day, I'm going to have fatigue. I know that. If I'm in Arizona and it's 100 degrees like it was a couple of weeks ago or a month or so ago when I was there, I know. Texas recently as well. So I have to know where I am, what's the temperature. Heat and stress are the biggest triggers for me. So what's the temperature? How long do I need to be outside to do my job? And then I will, if we have a 7 a.m. shoot, I'm at the hotel gym at 4 o'clock in the morning. and just to get myself going. So I have learned how to rewire my life and my brain. And then it's just during the day, just being aware of it, because every day is different. Some days, if I get that exercise in, I can go till 8 or 9 at night, and my hands might feel funny. So I drag my toes a lot. I always say I have a penguin walk. When I first get up, I'm in a chair right now, and I'm going to be in this chair for 45 minutes or so, right, or an hour, close to an hour by the time we're done. So when I first stand up, I will have zero sensation in my legs, and so I have to reestablish my balance. Same thing. You're on a shoot, you drive a car, you do that. If you watch my pieces closely, you can tell the good days from the bad days. Because are my legs spread? Are my legs spread more wide? Am I walking a little bit like a penguin, or do I have a normal gait and a stride? That tells you where I am on the MS spectrum that day. But everybody has their challenges, and I want no sympathy for that. It has really taught me to be much more aware about my body. I am probably physically in the best shape now than I have been, since I was a mediocre athlete in high school, because I understand what it means and how important it is to keep me going. So every challenge brings huge blessings if you embrace it.
How has MS affected your most important job, which I know is most important to you, and that is being a father?
Not as much as I feared it would. I still stubbornly go snowboarding with all of my children. Every Christmas, we take a break. We've been doing it for 20 years now. We've been doing it since before I got diagnosed, and I'm not going to stop now. And so sometimes I'm telling snowboarders, all over America. We tend to go west now. But yes, there's a guy who can't feel his legs on a snowboard between Christmas and New Year's just about every year. Don't worry, he's being safe. Again, that's been the fitness part of it and finding other ways. So I can't feel my legs. What do I have to do this? What do I have to do to succeed at this? I still go out and do catching drills with my little guy, who's a catcher and a pitcher. We go to the park and I hit him balls. Do I have to be aware of the heat sometimes? Yes. This is just like work. I might have to make I can't just pick up and go. I have to have a plan first, as opposed to just cool. We got a half an hour to go to the park. Let's go. But it's okay. It's been actually much less than, again, when I went on the internet that first day or those first few days, I had the fear of God in me that I was going to lose so much that's so important to me. The most important stuff. I have a great job. I love my job. But he's the most important thing in the world to me right now. And my older children, I don't mean that as any offense to them. They're successful adults. They need me less. They need me to plan that Christmas trip and to pay for snowboarding, but they need me a lot less than he does. But them too. I mean, they were in middle school they were in middle school and high school when I was diagnosed, and those were scary days at first. But you figure it out. And I'm lucky that the older ones, they were, like I said, middle school and high school when this journey began, and they hung it. They were just whatever, Dad. What can we do? Well, you don't worry, whatever we can do. The support structure especially in those days when only a tiny group of people knew, including my children, the support structure I did receive from that small group saved my life, kept me going, reminded me that I was really lucky. Now the little dude is, he's a freshman in high school, and it's football player, baseball player, smart kid, fun kid, curious kid, pain in the you-know-what. I brainwashed him into being a Red Sox fan and all that stuff. So so that's the most important thing in the world to me, is being a parent to all three of them. But he needs more right now. It wasn't always that way. When I was at the White House, I let that work sometimes get in the way of my parenting, and I'll never let that happen again. Never let that happen again. But it has not, it requires me to have a plan and to be smart about it, but it hasn't compromised me in any way. And I'm grateful for that. When
they first showed you the magic wall, which is now synonymous with John King of CNN, you said no.
Run away. So a little piece of CNN trivia that most people don't get. Who was the first person to use the magic wall on CNN?
Oh, well, you're going to have to tell. It wasn't Bernie Shaw.
No, it was Jeffrey Tubin. It was Jeffrey Tubin. Iowa caucus night.
There's so many bad jokes I can make right now. Okay.
Keep it family friendly.
Okay.
Keep it family friendly. Jeff, David Borman, our bureau chief, sadly gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, sadly gone. Just a brilliant, creative person. found the magic wall in a military hardware technology show. Like they were trying to sell this stuff to the Pentagon. And he said, oh, I can do some business with that in television. The management at the time and I did not have the greatest relationship. Not with Dave. I had a great relationship with David, but not the upper management. It was a periodic chapter in my time at CNN.
Yes.
And so David wanted me to do it. The management wanted Jeff to do it, who's brilliant. Jeff is a brilliant person. This is not a great way of criticism of Jeff.
Yeah.
But he'd never covered campaigns. New Hampshire primary day, 2008, I get a call that said, come to New York, which is where this election night studio was. And so I got to New York and they said, you're doing the magic wall tonight. And it was, I think, 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and our coverage started at like 6 o'clock. And I was like, you people are nuts. I've never touched that thing. And now I have to be on live television. And David just looked at me and he said, you should probably stop talking and get in there and practice.
Good advice. Good advice.
And off we went.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that night as I was tapping around, just what a powerful information tool it is. And how helpful it was. It was literally like my fingers could access anything in the library. Remember when we had to go to the library and find the encyclopedias and go to the file back. My hand was the mouse, right? And just click and find it. You can go get it. And wait. That Obama had won Iowa, and he was leading early in New Hampshire. And if Obama won the two of those back to back, what became a classic knockout, drag down Clinton-Obama nomination battle, for a long time, it would have been over if Obama had won New Hampshire that night. And a couple of networks actually called New Hampshire for Obama that night because he was ahead. And the magic wall that night helped me in a conversation with a lot of other smart people at CNN say, whoa, slow down. This is still mathematically possible for Clinton. Look. And that was so David essentially said to me at one point, explain that. Some people out there know other networks have called it. We have not. Explain why. And so that was when I first realized what I could do by tapping and going, here's Manchester, New Hampshire. Who lives here? It's blue collar, gritty people. Who are they supporting? Bill Clinton had great support there. Hillary Clinton believes she has great support there. Look at how much of the vote is still out, right? As compared to Nashua, a more liberal place where 80% or 85% of the vote is in. Manchester's still at like 60%. We have a lot of votes, and that's where the most people live. And so that was my introduction to using this amazing tool to tell a story. And to build. And lo and behold, the votes started to come in, and Clinton caught up and narrowly won New Hampshire that night. And I remember walking out of the studio that night just thinking, okay, I thought that the thing was kind of in television, they're always looking for the new gizmo, and some of them are actually helpful, and some of them are bells and whistles. Forgive me, TV producers, but some of them are, have more production value than they do news value. And I was worried about the wall, that's what it was. And I walked out of the studio that night thinking this thing is revolutionary. I learned so much that night tapping that wall. And I was like, I thought I knew a lot. And then all this information is available to me, and you can kind of reverse engineer elections as live data comes flying in to the thing. It was just eye opening. And I was like, wow. There are people at CNN, young people at CNN, who think that they have no idea I covered the White House. They had no idea I covered campaigns before that. They just think, oh, that's the guy who does the magic
You're the wall
wall
guy. You're the wall guy.
So it can be, what's the nice, polite word? It can be defining in both good ways and bad, I guess, to be gentle about it. I have found in my travels, talking to people, that it's accessible to them and they feel like you're taking them on a journey. And that's our job. That's how we should tell stories.
Right.
But
here's the thing. Let me just jump in and say, here's the thing on that. The reason it works is because how you interpret it. This goes back to your old AP days. I mean, I sometimes think you were born in the wrong era. You're like a 1930s, gumshoe reporter kind of guy. Like, you are looking at what the facts are, and you're going to report what you see on the facts, and you're not trying to politically persuade anybody. And in this day and age, that is what gives you the credibility and what is so refreshing.
I have no agenda except to tell you what I know. What I think is irrelevant. It's my job is to tell you what I know.
Yep. And what you see. And what you see.
The experience of having been to all 50 states at least 4 or 5 times, and some of them 20 and 30 and more times, that helps a lot. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to get back to doing it. That's why I gave up the show in the last election cycle. And I've spent the last 3+ years on the road just to reconnect with it. Because we do live in interesting times where people are going outside the normal boxes, where places that were blue when I started doing this are ruby red now, and vice versa. When I started doing this, the Philadelphia suburbs voted for George H.W. Bush. Now they're Democratic. And, my first campaign, Michael Dukakis, he only won 10 states, but he won Iowa and West Virginia. Almost unthinkable now that a Democrat would win either of those states.
That's true.
And so for me, for me, the Magic Wall is a breathtakingly powerful information tool. But I believe in this age of data, in this age where we can get so much information just sitting in our office, sitting anywhere with access to your supercomputer phone, the key to our business is then taking that. Don't just stay there. Some people just want to stay with the data, and it's amazing. But no, mix it with the people. Mix it with the people. Go to the county you live in and literally drive, to the blue county, 25 miles up the road, and then drive down. What changes? What changes in the landscape? What changes in the jobs along the road? What changes in how far or how new or how spaced out the houses are? Did you go from, suburbs? All of a sudden there's farms here. Do you see a horse? Do you see a Trump sign? Do you see it? And so when you can see it and feel it and then talk to people about it and then combine it with the magic of all that data I have access to with my hands in the wall, that's when it becomes wow. That's where the magic is. When you put the two things together. Larry King, by the way, is the one who called it the Magic Wall. It was one of the funniest nights ever. He asked me a question that he didn't think I could answer using the wall, and I went to boom, 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 and he said, "Wow, that thing's magic."
There you go, and a legend is born. I've taken so much of your time, but a couple of questions I always like to ask everybody on these calls. First of all, who is the friend? Because this is about friendship. So who is the friend who changed your life, who affected you? And you can't say me.
No, that would be gratuitous, right?
Okay.
I would say Ed Keenan, who was kind of a more distant friend, not a close personal friend.
Mhm.
But Ed was the brother of, at the time, my sister's boyfriend. And Ed Keenan died of AIDS.
Mm.
And Irish Catholic kid growing up in Boston, very conservative place. The introduction, A, to a gay man's life, and B, a gay man's bravery at that moment in time, again, just opened my eyes to, just listen and learn and respect and look. And the strength he showed at that time, at the very beginning of all of that, just so when people then, I grew up in the Boston at that time, I grew up in the forced busing and a lot of racial issues.
Mhm.
And so it was us versus them, us versus them, us versus them, them. Forgive my language, bullshit. Just open your eyes and respect people and understand where they're coming from. And the courage Ed showed, smiling and laughing and bringing joy to others when he was disintegrating before our eyes, was just so inspiring to me as a personal story of struggle, but also as a kid. Forget what you're hearing. Forget what people want you to think. Use your own brain to judge people. Judge people by who they are and what they do, not by what somebody else told you. I was not expecting that question. I haven't thought about Ed in a while. Ed was not a close friend, but he was a member of our group. But from that experience and from him, I learned incredibly valuable life lessons.
Well, here's to Ed, helping make you the person that you are today. And then on a totally superficial, because why not pivot to that, superficial level, what is the thing? No, totally superficial. What's the thing you're recommending to other friends these days? It could be a show, a book. It could be a beauty product. It could be a shoe. It could be something you got on Amazon. But when you say to a friend, oh, you got to check out this thing. What's the thing that you're telling people about?
I've made it a policy now to read the books my son has to read in schools. So over his summer reading book was this book called Firekeeper's Daughter, which is breathtaking. It's about a young Native American woman who has one white parent and one Native American parent growing up in Michigan. And it's, again, to the point I was just making, it just opens your mind and your brain to different perspectives. So I would say to people our age, read the books your children are reading. Or if you don't have children or your children are past that age, just go outside your box. Go outside your box. The other thing I would say is to the point that we talked about, I think, before you started recording, or maybe you have it at the top of all this, is to go someplace Go out of your box. Go someplace out of your box. If you are a very liberal American, go someplace Trumpy, and don't go to pick a fight. Go to listen. Go to listen. Just sit in a diner, put on a baseball hat. I used to do this when now some people recognize me in some parts of the country. They don't watch CNN, so I'm fine. But put on a baseball cap and just sit in a diner and listen to what people are talking about. And if you're a Trump voter, maybe go to that restaurant in Queens that AOC used to be a waitress and a bartender in. Just go out of your box and listen and look around, and so you realize that they're damn good people too. They're hardworking people too. They have your same struggles. They have your same goals. They have your same dreams. They just see things differently for whatever reason. It doesn't make them evil or un-American. It just makes them different. The different is supposed to be the gift of the great American experiment. We had 249 years in which every single day of this experiment, America has gotten more different and more diverse. And yes, more challenged. Whoop-de-doo.
Whoop-de-doo. Let's wrap it on whoop-de-doo. We'll wrap it on that. But we have 2 dates to get going here. So we're going to have you and the CNN crew down to shoot something in McIntosh County. I'll set you up.
I like that idea.
I'll be your associate producer. I have the credentials. I'll submit my resume.
Still doesn't pay well.
And then a year from today, we're going to meet and see how your prediction about how CNN is doing and see how that has played out. Deal?
I look forward to both. That's a deal.
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much, friend.
Absolutely. My pleasure, friend. Thank you.
All right, then. I just wanted to wrap up by saying that I just really loved that conversation with John King from CNN. It was so fun to reconnect with a friend from so long ago. And I'll be honest, the thing that got me to reach out and really connect is because I did hear that he has MS. And I really appreciate how honest he was about the symptoms and how he's doing. And well, it was just great to connect. And that kind of friendship, where you haven't talked to somebody for a long time, but you just jump right back in. And what I hope this inspires you to do is, if you have a friend who you've heard might be going through something where you're like, oh, we haven't talked for a while, or what's the deal? Just pick up the phone or the text or the email, something. Just reach out and see how they're doing. I know you won't be sorry. And speaking of reaching out, you can always reach out to me. You can find me. I have a phone number for you. It is 912-766-0446. You can call anytime, day or night. I don't hear it ring, but you can leave me a message, and you can also text me at that number again. And all the things that we mentioned, might have mentioned during the show, we'll have links down below. How you can follow John and anything else he might have recommended. So just go ahead and call a friend. Call me friend. We'll chat soon. You've been listening to Call Me Friend. Executive producers for this show are Daryn Kagan and me, Daryn Kagan. Could not do this show without my great team. Produce Your Podcast and Journeys Inc. Production by Abe Fallick, Tammy Gagno, and Rob Paw.
Before you go, Call Me Friend is more than a podcast, it's a community. So head over to callmefriendpodcast.com to join the conversation. Or you can call or send a text to 912-766-0446, and you can leave Daryn a message there, or maybe even share a story of your own. Because when life gets real, you don't have to go it alone. Call a friend. Call this friend.